Shalom guys, welcome back to another episode here at Just Shop Youth Ministries with Casa de Israel Yarah. Thank you for being there. Like I always say, if you like the content that we're uploading in our channel, like, subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put it in the comment section down below. So, this week's Torah portion, we're going to continue with Torah portion Mishpatim, which is in Exodus. And we're going to continue to analyze, discern, and understand the message that is being portrayed through the scriptures. Okay, that's the intention, at least as a leader, that I've been trying to do to help, in a way, simplify step and help you understand how can we connect and tie everything that we're learning in Exodus and in the Old Testament as it is known to what we have grown accustomed to and have grown to know in the New Testament, right? How can we identify these two elements as a society, as a culture that we have labeled as new and old, and how we learn and understand that instead of old and new, it is one, right? One document full of witnesses and also full of God's truth. Okay, so let's get to the Torah portion. So like I said, this week's Torah portion is Mishpatim. It is in Exodus 21 verse 1 to Exodus 24 verse 18. The Haftarah portion of the prophets is Jeremiah 34 verses 8 through 22, and also chapter 33 verses 25-26. And the Brit Hadashah New Testament portion is Matthew 17 verses 1 through 11. Last week's Torah portion, Yitro, explained the exactly 7 weeks after the Exodus from Egypt, which is 49 days after the first Passover. Moses gathered the Israelites at the foot of the mountain, Mount Sinai, to enter into the covenant with the Lord, right? And this is what why is one of the reasons why traditionally, if you follow the biblical feast and holy days, you understand for this reason that many interpret that the feast of Shavuot is connected to the giving of the Torah because of the 49 days that it took to get to the mountain, which hence 49 days since they exit Egypt in Exodus. They met with Adonai in this mountain, and this where they received the covenant and the instruction and commands and judicial elements that we will mention and review from last year that we spoke of. Okay, this week's Torah portion Mishpatim begins with Moses in the cloud of thick darkness, receiving the additional instructions regarding civil law. For the Israelite people, the Jewish sages traditionally count 53 distinct commands in this portion of the Torah, making it the most legalistic section of the entire Bible. These chapters, containing the first body of Torah legislation, have been known in English as the Book of the Covenant, the Hebrew called the Sefer HaBrit. This name is based on what it says in Exodus 24 verse 4 through 7, which recount that Moses put the divine commands into writing and then read out loud the covenant document that the people who gave it their assent. The title is of major importance, for it underscores the outstanding characteristics of the collection. Its divine source, social rules, moral imperatives, ethical injunctions, civil and criminal laws, and cultic prescriptions are all equally conceived to be expressions of divine will. All forms of stipulations of the covenant between God and Israel enacted at Sinai. Unlike the ancient Near Eastern corpora of laws, the document here is not a self-contained, independent entity. Rather, it is an inseparable part of the Exodus narrative. The narrative context is essential to the meaning and significance of the document. And this is something that we mentioned last year, right? So this is somewhat of a review, but understanding the importance of what is happening here, right? There is a binding agreement between the deity and the people, and how The deity and the people are in a union of commitment, right? There's expectations for the people and there's expectations for the deity. And it's interesting because the deity, in this case Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, voluntarily commits himself the same way that he committed himself to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, now commits to the people, the Israelites, right? To fulfill his word, to hold up his end of the bargain, his end of the promise that he gave to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, and so the corpora, the corpus of this element of the Torah, of the Exodus, is very important because it's describing certain aspects of the judicial structure for the people. Because remember, at the end of the day, these people need to live and they need to rule in representation of who they serve. Okay, so that's what we find in Exodus. Israel's law codes have a unique context. Other ancient Near Eastern cultures had laws that were similar in form and content, but none were integrated into an account of deliverance. Israel's law is unique in that it embedded the story of the Lord's salvation and desired the ensure well-being of the people. We have the preamble and the postscripts of the Book of the Covenant contain warnings against idolatry, pointing forward to the golden calf incident in Exodus 32. After that event, the text reiterates a briefer form of the book, a renewal of the covenant that the people broke. Before we get started, let's do a Torah blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Baruch Adonai Ha'orah le'olam ba'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim benatan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah. Bless Adonai who is blessed. Bless Adonai who is blessed now and forever. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen us from among the peoples and given us the Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, giver of the Torah. Amen. So it says, Wa'ele Mishpatim asher tasim lifnei hem. And in English, it says the following. These are the laws you are to set before them. If you buy a hero servant, he is to serve you for 6 years. But in the 7th year, he shall go free without paying anything. If he comes alone, he is to go free alone. But if he has a wife, when he comes, she is to go with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the woman, her children, shall belong to her master, and only the man shall go free. But if the servant declares, I love my master, and my wife and children do not want to go free, then his master must take him before the judges. He shall take him to the door of the doorpost and pierce his ear with an awl. Then he will be his servant for life. Now, this is something that we have spoken before, and what historically is communicating is a form of servitude that has an explanation when it comes to how did the individual get to the point of serving, right? There's a debt. There is a certain element that has nothing to do with oppression, that has nothing to do with promotion of slaves, right? It's more a promotion of serving, right? Serving for the sake of payment and reestablishing. So the whole element that is being described here is something that we all of us do when we take out credit, when we take out all these things that require us to make sure that we pay certain people from what we have borrowed or what we owe. It is a form of slavery or servitude, right? You have to pay back what you have given, and you have to work to pay that back. So it is similar to that. Now, in this case, it has something to do with individuals that's either owe or come into an agreement that for the sake of payment and restoration, then they will go into this servitude. That way they can get ahead. Now, what is interesting is that if the one that is serving has a master and he, in the process of service, fulfill his duty in his servitude, and then in that process he obtains a wife and kids, then he goes free they stay with the one that gave him the sons and the wife. But if he decides to stay, then he becomes a servant of the master, plus has children and wife forever for him. And you might say, well, that seems harsh. Remember, all these are cultural legislations from the time, right? Those cultural legislations do not apply to us today, but there's a lesson to be learned, right? In this case, for us believers, we become servant of God, right? Because we have a debt. What is our debt? Our debt is our sin, our disobedience, right? Our farness from our deity, which is in this case Yarah. And so, how do we repay him? By serving him and bringing forth life. And so, in the process of our servitude or our service, we obtain wife and children. In the day of our freedom, we can recognize that we did things from our own hands, or we can recognize the master that gave us the wife and the children and provided for us, right? So the lesson is very important that we can learn from this, okay? Now, we can focus on the literal legislation, which is something that you can learn from the time, or you can take the essence of the lesson, which is we have a master, which is him. He provides everything for us, and he wants us to recognize that. Okay, so let's continue. These lists of enactments, which we talked about last year, begins with the 10 laws regulating the institution of slavery. None of the other law collections from the ancient Near East opens with this topic. Hammurabi's, for example, deals with slavery last. The priority to give this subject by the Torah doubtless has a historical explanation. Having recently experienced liberation from bondage, the Israelites is enjoined to be especially sensitive to the condition of the slave, right? So this is talking about you were a slave in Egypt. So let's start off by explaining to you how you will become a master, and how if you have slaves, this is how you will treat them, right? And there's no oppression in here, right? Because you were not oppressed by Adonai. You were freed, and you were given the ability to go free. Okay? The contents of the book seem jumbled with unrelated laws of various forms. The sequence has raised questions and created tension for casual readers and scholars alike. The book includes laws regarding slavery, human violence, injury by dangerous oxen, restitution for the theft, property damage, limiting the use of power over the most vulnerable, worship, integrity in the face of corruption or hate, the Shabbat laws to protect the poor, and the rules for religious feast days. Now, this is something that we're going to focus on for the rest of the teaching, and I hope that we can discern this and you can get the point that I'm trying to make. It says, "See, I am sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way, to bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hivites, and Jebusites, and I will wipe them out. Do not bow down before their gods or worship them or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces. Worship the Lord your God, and his blessing will be on your food and water. And I will take away sickness from among you, and none will miscarry or be barren in your land. I will give you a full lifespan." And so there's contingencies in these couple of verses, right? It's talking about the angel, the one that is going to lead us. We have to listen to him and understand that if we listen to the messenger and we listen to the Father, then the Father will open the way. The Father, because we're following the messenger and we're paying attention to what he speaks, the Father will be the one that will give us water, that will give us food, that will give us the land, and will give us life. Okay? And so, in all these portions, we see the laws, the legislations, and the covenant. But we have to understand that even though God is establishing the boundaries and the structure, he's also speaking to us. He's speaking to our hearts. He's saying, accept these things because this is what I'm going to give you guys, right? This is my gift to you. Like I told you guys last week, like I told you in the other previous teaching, right? This is the gift that he has given us. This is the blessing that he has given us. He has given us his instructions. He has given us his covenant so that we're able to learn how to be in his presence. But we have to listen that if we accept these things, if we follow the messenger who will be promoting these things, then the Father, through the messenger, will be giving us everything that we need, which is in the end life. Okay, so let's continue. Then the Lord said to Moses, come up to the Lord, you and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and the 70 of the elders of Israel. You are to worship at a distance. But Moses alone is to approach the Lord. The others must not come near, and the people may not come up with him. When Moses went and told the people all the Lord's words and laws, they responded with one voice, everything the Lord has said we will do. Moses then wrote down everything the Lord has said. He got up early the next morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain and set up 12 stones and pillars representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young Israelite men, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed young bulls as a fellowship offering to the Lord. Moses took half of the blood and put it in bowls, and the other half he splashed it against the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it to the people. They responded, we will do everything the Lord has said. We will obey. So, there's a commitment, right, from the people. There's a commitment from the people to not only understand that the Father will send a messenger, an angel, right, and that we are to call and follow that messenger, and we have to listen to that messenger. And if we do so, and we listen to the Father will give us life, water, food, protection. Okay? And so that with obeying and honoring the covenant and obeying his commandments and understanding his legislations, his enactments, his structure, understanding these two things, listen to him, listen to the messenger, and obey the covenant, fulfill it, hold fast to it, is a manifestations of us, of who we represent. Because that's what Adonai is saying. I have been these. I have been faithful, consistent, true to what I told your father, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the reason why I have been faithful and true to what I said to him is because he obeyed the covenant. He followed the words and the instructions I gave him. Okay? It's not that hard, guys. All right? Now, Moses then took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, this is what the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words. Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel went up and saw God, the God of Israel. Under his feet was something like a pavement made of lapis lazuli, as a bright blue as the sky. But Adonai, God, did not raise his hand against these elders of the Israelites. They saw God, and they ate and drank. The Lord said to Moses, come up to me on the mountain and stay here, and I will give you the tablets of stones with the law and the commandments I have written for their instructions. Now, there is a sprinkling of the blood, which is a connection. Because remember, the blood of the animal contains life, or it contains the life, right? That's what Leviticus explains to us. That's why blood is brought to the altar and is used in a way for the intercession of the people and the deity. The deity does not consume the sacrifice. The sacrifice is just a representation of what you're communicating to the deity, whether it is a complete burnt offering, whether it is a meal offering, or whether it is a cereal offering. There's elements and reasons why you bring an offering. Forgiveness of sin. And so in this case, they're thankful and they having a covenantal meal, and the sprinkling of the blood is binding. Okay, so let's continue. Mark 1 verse 1 through 5 says, the beginning of the good news about Jesus, Yeshua the Messiah, the Son of God, as it is written in Isaiah the prophet, I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way. A voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord. Make straight the path for him. And so John the Baptist appeared in the wilderness, preaching a baptism, an immersion of repentance for the forgiveness of sins. The whole of Judean countryside and all the people of Jerusalem went out to him, confessing their sins. They were immersed, baptized by him in the Jordan River. So in this situation, we see how John is becoming a witness. And he's becoming a witness and a voice and a messenger of the coming of that messenger that not only was promised to the people in Egypt in the Exodus, but also that is promised in the prophetic books, right? Which will reunite and redefine and restructure the kingdom of Elohim, right? Will connect not only the people, but creation back to the deity. And in this case, John becomes one in the wilderness, calling for making the way of the Lord, right? The chosen one that will come. John becomes a witness to this when he immerses Jesus, Yeshua, in the river. And he sees how the Holy Spirit gives testimony that he is the one that is beloved by Adonai, the one that can give life in and behalf of Adonai. Okay, which is very important, because here we read that Adonai tells the people of Israel when they are in Mount Sinai that an angel will go before them and that they have to listen to him. But in this case, the people are freshly acceptance of the covenant and freshly accepted of the legislations and the conditions of the covenant. The people in Yeshua's time and the people of John the Baptist's time were divided, and the covenant was not upheld because of disobedience, greed, self-gain, self-indulgence of wisdom and understanding, and lack of the true meaning of the scriptures, and lack of true empathy and justice and righteousness and mercy, and through limited goodness, right? So when they were focusing on doing what was right in their own eyes, they were not focusing on what was right in God's eyes, and so they have lost complete control and balance of what was the way of the Lord. Okay, and so here we have John, voice in the wilderness, a messenger preparing the way for our Messiah. Let's continue to read. So after John the Baptist immerses Yeshua, now Yeshua is completely ordained and has the calling of the Son, the beloved of Adonai. And it says, after John was put in prison, Jesus, Yeshua, went into Galilee proclaiming the good news of Adonai, that the time has come. The kingdom of Adonai has come near. Repent and believe the good news. Now, what is that good news? We talked about it last week, that Jesus came to, right? Yeshua came to establish that which we saw in Exodus. If you love me, keep my commandments. If you truly love him, keep his commandments. Keep the words that were given to you not only at Mount Sinai through Moses, but also the words that are being given to you through Yeshua. Okay? Now, Matthew 26, verse 26 and 29 say the following. While they were eating, Yeshua took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take it and eat. This is my body." And then he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is the blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many, for the forgiveness of sins. For I tell you, I will not drink from this fruit of the vine from now on until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." And so, why do we close out with this? Because in the portion for this week, Mishpatim, legislations, understanding how to treat the slave, understanding how to treat the orphan, the widow, the less fortunate, understanding how to be fair, how to be just, how to be righteous, understanding all these elements based on how Adonai describes it, and understanding that once we accept the covenant, once we accept the blood that was shed for the covenant that binds us, right? We have to be committed to that. Yeshua doesn't come to teach us something different or something new. Yeshua comes to teach us something true, which is that God is going to provide food, water, protection, and life if we, like him, protect the covenant, honor the covenant, and obey the commands. Here, Yeshua is saying, my body is something that is given for you so that you can become one with the deity, in this case, Yehovah, and become one with your brother. And the blood is what legally binds you to the commitment that if I am your Messiah, and you believe that my Father raised me from the dead, you'll be saved. Why? Because if you believe that, you believe that he will do that for you too. And you will do what I did, which is obey my Father's commandments. Obey my words, because my words are not mine, are my Father's. If you love me, you keep my commandments. And my commandments come from the Father. And they didn't change. Like I told you last week, if you believe that God is the same now, forever and always, then that means that there's nothing that has changed except the heart of men. And we have an opportunity to turn back and accept the good news that if we honor the covenant, stay faithful to it, then God will provide water, food, protection, and life. So, that's what I got for this week. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Shavua Tov and Shabbat Shalom.